Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning from wherever you are joining us today, and welcome to a Microsoft Reactor live stream on generative AI for developers. My name is Nadia. I'm the Reactor Program and Event Manager here in Sydney, and today I'll be joined by Arafat, who is a Senior Manager at EY and also a Microsoft MVP for AI. But before we kick off this session, I'd just like to draw your attention to our Reactor Code of Conduct. So in short, we just want to ensure that this is an enjoyable session for all. So please ensure your comments are constructive and welcoming to all attendees. Please send us your questions throughout the session in the chat and we'll try to answer as many as possible. We'll also include some additional links, including our survey, so if you have time to fill that out, that'll be greatly appreciated. And if you'd like to reference back to today's session, you can do so on our Reactor YouTube channel. I'll also share the link on the Reactor Sydney meetup page. Now it's time to hand over to our incredible speaker, so thank you for joining, and over to you, Arafat.
Thank you. Thanks, Nadia. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the live stream. Imagine a world where you can create anything you want with just a few words. A world where you can generate captivating stories, remarkable experiences, and stunning visuals using the power of artificial intelligence. A world where you can build personalized voice assistants that can understand and respond to your needs. This is the world of generative AI, and it is closer than you think. Today, we are going to learn how you, as a developer, can learn all about generative AI with the tools that would enable you to create some useful applications and business workflows to solve your and your customers' problems. I'm Arafat Tassin. I'm a senior manager based in Sydney at EY, and I'm also Microsoft MVP for artificial intelligence. I do a lot of stuff within generative AI these days and other community related activities to empower everybody with artificial intelligence, regardless of your background. And this is one of the reasons of these sessions. So this is our second session of the series of generative AI. The first one was not related to the developers; it was related to the no-code makers, in fact. So you can, if you want to go and find it out, that way you can find out that session. My suggestion to you is to look out for Reactor page, or if you click on my channel on the YouTube, you can find me easily, or connect with me, and I'll definitely hand over you that link. In addition to this, if you are interested and based in Sydney, interested in learning about these things in person, then please connect with Azure Sydney user group. So this is one of the user groups which I run with two of my friends, Simon and Sam, and we try to bring the community of Microsoft Azure community together to learn all about AI, Azure, and other stuff. So feel free to join that. Again, just a Google away. But yes, if you want me to provide you that link, happy to do that later on. And yes, if you are interested in learning about AI and you like to listen to podcasts as well, then head over to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, or whichever your favorite application is for the podcast, and look out for Global AI, the podcast. This is one of the these are one of the initiatives which I run with different MVPs over here in Australia. So let's move on for this specific session, generative AI for developers. So we will be discussing a lot, but what we are not going to discuss in this session is the advanced capabilities of Azure OpenAI Service. When I mean advanced capabilities, this means that anything to do with apply that particular data set of yours to the OpenAI service, how to manage the throughput SKUs, how to add some different stuff like what are plugins and other stuff, and also Semantic Kernel, because when I was building this talk, I realized that there's so much to cover within this space for you as developers. So that we can divide them into two sessions. So the next session will be a little more deep dive, but let's see what do we have in this one. So we will be talking about why we are discussing AI, what is the need of it, the landscape of it, generative AI landscape, and then we'll talk about what are large language models, how do they work, and then moving towards the Azure OpenAI details, what business use cases can it solve, why do we use it, why not we just use the other cognitive services, when does this service come into a value, and all that questions as well. In addition to this, we'll also look into the prompt engineering best practices for you as a developer, how you can improve them, and also a few demos. So I built total 4 demos, and the first one has got some small snippets. So first ever Polyglot Notebook for generative AI. If you know anybody else has done this, please share the link. Otherwise, I think it's only me who has created this for you. So you will be getting something super good after the end of this session. Let's talk about the brief history of AI. So it all started in quite back in 1956. AI, whenever AI was defined as a field of research in one of the colleges, this term was coined by John McCarthy. In case anybody asks you in any of the quizzes, so you know who to what to answer now. So John McCarthy was the person who has termed this coined this term. And then in 1997, machine learning came into being that enabled computers to make decisions or predictions. Later on in 2017, we see deep neural networks came in and being used within the industry to create some useful solutions. And at the end, in 2021, we saw it all changed. I was having a look at one of the statistics that it took Facebook 4 years to reach to a place where it took ChatGPT just 2 months. So you can imagine that how powerful and useful this technology is. Now the discussion is AI is changing. Like why we are discussing this. So you can see that whatever you do these days is infused by artificial intelligence. Every software or app you use is having some kind of AI in it, and that's the landscape of AI, that how enormous it has become. This isn't my just primary topic. Otherwise, I would have shown you that how it grew in just 1 year. So it was literally half last year, and it has grown up to this one. Now, you may say that yes, we know what AI is, and we have seen blah blah, but what about generative AI? So generative AI is basically, you can consider it as a genie you wish you had in your pocket, and it is a type of AI that generates new data for you, be it like just like ChatGPT, you have seen images like Dolly or Midjourney, audio and video, and which we will talk about in a couple of new slides, upcoming slides. So it could have created these all slides as well. I did not, but I could have done this. So that's the overall generative AI landscape, which is like 2 months old. So I know there are so many other services and known services such as Google Bard, which is not a part of this. So this these things are changing very rapidly, and this is one of the reasons that whatever you push today, you may see it changed like after 1 month or something. So you need to be on top of it if you want to grasp this knowledge on this topic. But it's always fun to learn about these things as we move along and as we see the progression of the technology. Now let's say like what happens when you provide a prompt. When you give a prompt and it goes to a model, it generates a text in, or it completes the text for you. This is usual GPT-3, uh, you can say GPT-3 functionality. What happens then? So if I ask what is the capital of Australia, the model should pop up what. Can anybody write it in the chat? other than those who are in Australia. So we'll see that who the lucky ones are. And by the way, um, I have got one small giveaway for you as well, but that's not the question for giveaway. So in fact, not just one, two of them. So I'll be giving away two exam vouchers for foundational exams. So fundamental exams, uh, 50% off exam vouchers for two lucky winners. I will tell you how to contact me, so don't worry about it wherever you are. There are just certain set of countries which are not allowed in it, but we can discuss that part later on. Um, Richard says Canberra. Yes, that is correct. So now if we go, and Abhishek as well, thanks. So now what it does, how it works actually, that the model has been trained on nearly, like this is GPT-3 specifically, or any foundational language model, that they have been trained nearly over the internet. So that's why when you provide a context, sorry, a prompt like I climbed a mango tree and picked what would be the fruit. The fruit would be a mango, of course. But if we um, if I choose a different prompt, there can be a mango, or there can be a few fruits, or there can be a pear, or there can be a whole new big sentence, because this is the randomized nature of these models. The other part is that they are not super updated with the current information or the internet. Yes, we have seen that ChatGPT Plus, Bing, or um, like GPT-4 infused with Bing can read internet and can go and fetch the information for you, but you have to explicitly tell it. So the model itself is not trained on the real-time information. However, you can use plugins for that. But we are talking about the foundational model, not added with something else. And if the proof of this is, if you ask this question to the model, it will say the Queen Elizabeth II is still alive and well, and has been the Queen of the United Kingdom since 1952, which is wrong now, because um, the Queen has passed away. Say this other part of this is that I did, that I asked ChatGPT to give me a name of a scientist that never existed, and it created a name, Lilithia Starlight. What I wrote as a prompt over here, that write a biography of Lilithia Starlight, inventor of Lit Now, which I just created myself, and I said that include references. You know what? It created whole biography. I've got a whole biography with the big maximum tokens of it, and it also generated the references, although this is all false. So it hallucinates. It means that it spreads the nonsense with very, very, very big confidence. So you have to be very careful of when we are using this, and we have to use it very responsibly. So after this, when we have discussed this, um, the another proof is, like, if you say my name is Arafat, who are you, and it would say any name. In my case, it said my name is John. um, if you ask for a nickname, it doesn't know you, so it would give you this kind of nicknames. However, if it knows you, it will give you something very relative. So you can see that it has given me a nickname as Era, which is a short form of my name. Not that I love this nickname, but yes, that's the case. Now let's talk about the what foundational generative AI models can do. So they can generate text, images, code. They can generate human-like output. They can provide you some useful information, summarizing, translation, and all that stuff. Then they can also create some really, really cool content for you, whether be it an email or a social media post, and other relevant contents as well. However, what they are not, so they are not intelligent, which means that it's just a predictive system, and you don't consider it like it is thinking it itself. And they are not deterministic, which means that you can't determine the output because of their randomized nature. And if you want to prove yourself, just go to ChatGPT and write the same question again. not asking you to write 2 plus 2, but write a detailed question again, and it would give you a different response. These models are not grounded with your data or with facts, and that's why they hallucinate very confidently. These models cannot know everything, right? Because it's just, you can consider them, it's just a blurry picture of your data. They cannot learn as we go. As I showed you that the model was stopped learning, like it was trained till the specific amount of time, so they are not real time learning. The model is fixed at the time of its training. They can also not act smartly unless you specify them. So these are a couple of facts which I wanted to highlight before we get into the stuff. And I think this is quite essential as well, to build and use these technologies in a responsible manner, so that we don't create something which is not supposed to be created. Pinnacles has asked a question: will the replay of the session be available? That is absolutely correct. It will be available. Now, moving on to the OpenAI plus Microsoft partnership. So, what they have done is joined their hands together, and Microsoft has brought whatever the model was there in OpenAI space, and they have brought in for text, for images, for code, and for conversation, different set of models to your own Azure subscription, which means within the umbrella of Azure. Why Microsoft has done it? um, for enterprises and for enterprise customers. So the reason why, because enterprises are using Azure already, and if they want to use these capabilities, they don't have to worry about the security. They don't have to worry about going outside of their cloud. They don't have to worry about go outside of their subscription as well. So within this one umbrella, Microsoft has brought these models with an added security. So this is something which is really commendable by the industry. And of course, we have seen that clients are quite comfortable, if not 100%, in using this. So, and another question, sorry, another point I would like to make over here, that Microsoft does not learn from your data. This is something which has been popping up again and again when I talk to someone. So just to and I've got many confirmation around it. So I'm happy to say that yes, Microsoft does not learn from your data. Your data is your data. That is under your subscription. But we'll talk about all of these case, and we'll show we'll see in demo. In case you have got any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat box, and then I'll definitely pick it up. I'm looking at your questions all the time, so don't worry. So this is the overall spectrum of Azure AI, where Azure AI is being used. They are used from applications to application platforms to customizable AI models to ML platforms. So regardless of what your background is, are you a business user or a decision maker or developers or data scientists, take you can leverage Azure AI in any of your solutions. In our last session, we discussed the application platform and touched almost three components of Power Platform: Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, with a little bit of Microsoft Teams. You can have a look at the demo which I presented in my previous talk, but this one is more specifically for Azure OpenAI Service, so we'll just stick to that. Um, what and how does it work? So you just provide a prompt in your request, and you get a response in your response. Um, this is interesting. So, and how does it work? You provide res- uh, uh, a request. In your request, you are just providing prompt with some settings, and the response which is returned has got um, the text response as well, and other values as well. So we'll see that. But these are some of the examples which you can see, including the rightmost side, which is an image that is using DAL-E model, and we will have a look at it. what model is best for video creation. This is John Newsom. So John has asked what model is best for video creation. John, I would like to know more details on this. Like, I did not understand. This is text in, text out model mainly. Azure OpenAI Service is text in, text out, um, and it has the capability of generating images with DALL-E. So there are three types of models now, but we'll discuss that in detail. However, I have not seen any model that is creating the video now in Azure OpenAI Services specifically. What business use cases it can it unlock then if it is text only or images only? So these are the set of business cases that can be unlocked by just using Azure OpenAI service. And we'll see that which model is suitable for what task, so that um, it has involved some tech cost associated with it as well. And of course, you may not want to use every time GPT-4 when it is not really required for that. Um, so these are the use cases. OpenAI consideration. So this is the another big question which is asked many times from me, that we have got a translation model. Sorry, we have got translation capability. We have got language capability. We have got other capabilities related to language within Microsoft Azure, within the umbrella of cognitive services. What is the use of those models when Azure OpenAI service is here, or when should I use Azure OpenAI service versus that? So you have a checklist over here on the list on the screen. If you have got items checked in this, and like you need to use this model with little or no training, you want a rapid prototyping, you want to have some generative information, like not just summarization or translation but more than that. So definitely these are the scenarios where you can use Azure OpenAI service. But talking about the other services as well, they have got very specific cases and they are super good at what they do. So we will have a chat about this later on if you have got any questions. But these are the OpenAI considerations. Moving on, as I said, there are other services as well, which is not a part of this discussion today, but I'll be happy to answer you any questions if you have got anything around that. The another set of features which are coming to you soon, and which some of them are already in public preview, is deploy on your own data, provision throughput SKU and plugins for Azure OpenAI service. So these are a little bit of smart advanced topics for today, so that's why we will be discussing this in our next session when we deep dive into Azure OpenAI or generative AI. Now let's talk about the best practices for prompt engineering. Everybody must be using ChatGPT for their different kind of use cases. However, you as a developer need to be very careful of what you are building, because when you are using ChatGPT, you are at the user side, or you are at the end user side. You are not building something, and when you are building something, you have to be very careful of what you are doing. So in order to write your prompts for your applications, you need to be very descriptive and specific. Um, like you can ask to generate a HTML code or JSON, but you need to, if you ask it to be the structured output, you can specify that what fields need to be there, what values need to be there. So as descriptive as you are and as specific as you are, your results are going to be very much better and clear. Then you can also evaluate if the conditions are satisfied. Let's say you are solving a maths problem. I've seen that people have commented that, yeah, it does not solve maths problem, it is quite weak at maths. That is correct, but it can do some basic operations quite well. And if it is not doing a basic operations quite well, there can be a problem that your prompt is not super good. And the reason why it does it, because it tries to generate an output and send it to you. If you want to evaluate this, you just try to write a prompt and ask that model to retest yourself itself and also provide the reasoning for that. And this is when you will see a lot of improvement in your results. So be iterative means you have to be very, very iterative on what you are building, which means that you cannot write 100% short prompt at once right away. So you may have to revise it again and again in order to build and making it a little bit mature. um, the other part is your sequence matter. So let's say you have to write an email, you have to summarize the text, you have to translate something. In this case, you have to define the goal first and then provide the context. If you provide a context first, let's say you provide a whole big text in Arabic, and then you are asking it to translate, it may translate, but sometimes it misses out a couple of things. So and especially if that's in English, because you are writing English like all the time, you're providing the context, and then at the end line you have written like what your goal is, then this is where it may go a little different and unexpected. Ivan has asked a question, what do you mean that AI is not intelligent? It was around the foundational models, not generally in AI. So um, when I say foundational models are not intelligent, this means that they are not learning themselves. There is a training element, and that training element is based upon certain factors. So it's not that it is learning it itself by itself. It is still provided infused by some factors and parameters. Going towards the next, so given model and out, which means that you need to provide a escape way for your model, which means that if your model does not find something, it needs to say I don't know, unknown, not found, or something. Otherwise it may try to build up something which is not expected, and then it may return some response which is unexpected as well. Improve your prompts with zero short examples, few short examples. So we don't have to rely just on zero short learning, because what happens is that zero short does not give you the right response all the time. What is zero shot learning? If anybody wants to give it a crack before I go to the next slide. All right, let's move to the next one. So we'll talk about this is, I think, second last or some slide, and then we'll jump into the demos. So zero shot learning is basically the the learning that AI must generate outputs or solve tasks without having seen any of the examples of a specific task. Which means that imagine that your teacher has asked you to create a picture of a cat, and that teacher has that teacher has that is correct, Dilip. So that it 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 does not know this like specifics of that. It does know from its from the large data set, but it does not know the specific of that. And the example for this is the, as I said, the cat example. So your teacher gives you a task to draw a picture of the cat, and now and that teacher your teacher has told you that yes, cat has pointy ears, whiskers, tails, and you have to draw a cat only using that information. Now you need to use your imagination and what you already know and about other animals to draw a cat without seeing any picture. On the other hand, we have got one shot where your teacher shows you one picture of cat and asks you to draw other cats. By using that simple example, you may improve in that response, but definitely you won't be able to go and reach to the point where your teacher may want. So then you see different bunch of like 10 cats, 10 images of cats and different types of cats, And then you, if your teacher asks you to create a cat picture of a cat, you will be more proficient and expert in that scenario. So this is how the few shot learning works. So you need to provide some examples to your model in order to create something um, as expected, and we'll see that in the demo right after this. So now we'll discuss all about demos. We'll talk about how do you get started with Azure OpenAI Service, how do you build a flight tracker with OpenAI Service. So it's not a fully fledged tracker; it's just a boilerplate code. If you write a search query on Google, build a flight tracker using bot framework composer, you will come across a blog which I wrote in 2020, I think, that was using the bot framework composer, which was the tool, in fact, not any, like, you can download it now, but it is not getting any updates. So, and all of its updates have now been transferred to or all of its features are now transferred to Power Virtual Agents. Um, it was such a difficult task, I would say, than this. What we are going to see this today, so you will appreciate that what generative AI has brought in to build these kind of scenarios, and then on the same flight tracker, we will add the multimodality, which means we will add the voice part of that of voice part to this as well, and then we'll see how you can generate images for the same social media campaigns. So if you want to add the images, if you want to create the images of the same use case as well, you can do that, but I'll show you something else on that side. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll share my other screen so that you know what is going on. And just give me a minute, please. In case you have got any questions in the meantime, please ask. All right, I think you are sharing. Yeah, now you can see my screen. So what is this? This is the Azure OpenAI service, or which we call it as Azure AI Studio. This studio has got many things and many examples. Um, you can see a lot of videos on YouTube, people explaining about all of this thing. What do you do over here? What do you do over completions playground? How does Dolly playground work and all that? We will see that as well. So let's talk about completion. So in completion, what happens is, like, you have got different examples. If I write just by myself, like, um, I climbed. So if I try to generate it from here, what it will do is it will try and go. I will have to provide some context. Sorry, just a minute. So if I generate this specific case, you can see that using the boilerplate language or tech context, it is generating the whole email. So this is how it completes. You can define the tokens and everything, but it is this UI, right? You cannot do anything else other than playing with it over here, or you can use it for your own stuff like you do in ChatGPT. Same is the case if I was to provide something rather than like, you can say translate the following in English, and I will say translate the following in French or Spanish, and I would say translate the following in Chinese. So what it will do is it will try to create one, and then it will try to create it in Chinese as well. So this is completion, right? Same goes for the chat. So if you come to chat, in chat it creates the chat experience, which is GPT-4 or GPT Chat GPT. These names are provided by my model. So my models have got different names. Sorry, my deployment has got different names, and your model can have a different name as well. Ernest Thomas question that why you say we have to give the context and samples to the model for training it. Are we looking at giving hundreds and thousands of samples? No, you are only providing, when you are providing about few short, you are just providing 10 examples for that. And I'll speak and I'll explain that what I meant, Ernest. So thank you for this question. This was a good question. And the topic which we are not going to discuss today was this add your own data. Similarly, you can go and uh, Dolly preview. So I can say so if I'm writing this text, a student in a rain carrying colorful umbrellas outside the school, it would try to generate the similar kind of images. So you can see this image. These people never existed. Um, this is just a computerized, or you can say AI generated images. So and everything has got a view code capability. You can see so what is this view code? So this whole code over here is basically the request which you may want to send it, and these are the endpoints and these are the keys. And you can see the C# code is there, the JSON code is there, so you don't have to like see or learn about like, oh, this is Python, this is JSON, and I'm a .NET developer or otherwise. How will I get this done? So what instead of going through all of this, because this is just a studio to use it for yourself, not to build an application on from that. Of course, you can't even do anything. You can't. Yeah, John, answer your question first. So given that Azure AI Studio is by invitation only, when it will be publicly available? Azure AI Studio is not invitation, like it's not in private preview. You can request for the Azure OpenAI service. You need to provide the use case for that in order to get it. There are certain services which are in preview, but Azure OpenAI service till GPT-4 is in generally availability. So they are GA, and you can also opt for them. It's just that you have to fill up a form, John. Coming to the part of, I was discussing that this is the interface, but this interface is not going to be super helpful because we need to build some applications. And for that, what I've done is I've created a Polyglot notebook for you. So this is the notebook which you can see. This the piece of code, whatever you see over here, everything will be there going towards my GitHub repository. So this is my GitHub repository. On 2023, there is generative AI for no code makers. You will see another folder over here very shortly, generative AI for developers, and which is where you will see everything going, whatever you are seeing over here. So this is the first ever Polyglot notebook, or people who are familiar with Jupyter notebook as well, that's the same. But then the reason why Microsoft has changed it to Polyglot notebook, like why they have created this, is you can run multiple languages in just one workbook, which is like super good. So I have created this. I've tried to put much more detail in it, so that you can, when you start, you know what needs to be installed, what needs to get, what do you need to install everything, and how do you secure Azure OpenAI key as well, following these instructions. Now, as a .NET developer, and I have created everything in C sharp, but it is going to be used in a similar fashion as for Python as well. When you start this, you will just see that whether it is working or not. Your .NET interactive kernel is there, and before, thanks Sam, I knew this. So before before we get into this, we will first see like what is the boilerplate code we need to write in order to use different scenarios. um, I will also take one question and then we'll go uninterrupted in this demo. So if I'm able to use this to create a real application, does the model retain the information? Can you train it with the data? That is correct. You need to ground your you need to ground it with your data, and every time you run it, you need to ground it. I will tell you a way how to achieve this. Just hold on, John. So now, how do you started with it? You just start with this interactive kernel to load it. If you are a .NET developer, you know that we use NuGet packages. This is how you get the NuGet packages. And I've just written some boilerplate code. My Azure OpenAI key and my OpenAI endpoint is there in my environmental variables, so that I need to just run it once, and I have run it. So my package is installed. Now let's talk about completion. So as you must have seen that I have written a boilerplate code for the completion. So my prompt is this: all that glitters. If I run it again, you will see all that glitters, and GPT-3 response saying all that glitter is not gold means that something, because I have not provided my token. So that's why it has given me a lengthy response over here, correct? Had I provided the token length, it would have just provided me the completion of it, right? So it is providing me. So this is what my input was, and this is the input from GPT-3, the text completions API. And you can have your own version of it. It's like, um, again, picking up a fruit example, um, I climbed a mango tree and picked. So even GitHub um, Copilot is giving me this. So you can see a GPT-3 response was just a mango. And then it said that I washed the mango off with the water, cut it into the slices and ate it. It was so sweet and juicy. So that's how you use this GPT-3. Coming to the useful part of it, so people, you may have seen these examples probably, but you may not have seen this one. So we are discussing this is a specific example, as in, like, if I want to build a sentiment classifier using the same completion API, how do I do this? So coming to your question, John, you can either define it as a part of your prompts, so, or you can have a whole vector, or you can say, I would say, the chunk of pieces of your documents. We'll talk about this in a little later, like in my upcoming demos as well. But and happy for you to contact me, and I'll give you a detailed answer on that, because that is half of it was will be covered in our next session. Anyway, so this is pure prompt. So this is a sweet tweet sentiment classifier I've given it, and then my tweet, I'm giving it a tweet and sentiment, tweet and sentiment, so that it just learns. And you can see that the examples are quite less. They are not like 600 records, 7,000 records, 8,000 records. I built a sentiment analyzer classifier using traditional machine learning. It took me like 7,000 utterances to build a super cool text sentiment classifier. But look at this. So if I run this one, and you can see that this is the new music video which blew my mind, and I would get a sentiment out of it. So you will see that the GPT response was positive, right? um, yeah. So this is you can change this text whatever you want, and like, right, and then when you will come over here, you will see that it is negative. So this means that it is working, and with just a very few examples. So this is super cool. Coming to the other piece, because I'm running a little quick, so that I know we can cover everything. So chat gpt and GPT-4 has got a different type of syntax, because over here you are providing everything is in one prompt, but now you want to build text in and text out capabilities in your model. And the way you would do is, think, coming to the other another flight tracking example. So over here, I'm providing it that you are a virtual assistant who is responsible for tracking flights. You need either a flight tracking number or a source to and destination from to track any flight. If the user does not provide any of this information, then you should ask for it. Anything outside of the flights are not a part of your scope, and you should just answer with an unknown intent, right? So over here, I have provided a couple of examples. Track my flight from Sydney, and this is my answer. My agent would answer if I was to ask this question. Then I have written this as a provided this as an example. Then my agent has provided as an example. So I'm grounding my examples now, and I'm giving it to my Chat GPT model, which is 3.5, not GPT-4. Now, if I run this, you will see that I'm writing my prompt. I want to track my flight from Dubai, and it is saying, "Sure, please you provide your destination and flight number so that I can track your flight." And if I say, um, "I want to track flight AK123," right? And I just change this, and I say over here, so it will say, "Yes, where? What is the arrival?" Or I will say, "Flight flying from Sydney to Melbourne," like just making up. And so it has given me some examples. So the more you train your model, because it has also learned from the internet. So if I say JF or something, and then it would give me that yes, from had departed and scheduled to arrive at 7. So you can see that if I change it to EK, because EK was the name of flight, EK is the prefix of Emirates airline. That's why it did not give me the answer. Now it has given me the answer. Now, just pausing this over here, going to the other, this is a chat application. Unfortunately, Polyglot Notebooks does not allow me to do a chatting over here of chat interface. As a result of that, what I've done, so I am going to, yeah. As a result of that, I have created a sample console application, and this is the exact same application, but with a little bit of caveat of I've written this whole small helper. So you can see that this is the helper over here. This is my application, and I will say, okay, let's my welcome to my flight bot. I want to track my flights. I will come over here and I will say, I want to track my I want to book a flight. So let's break this first. I want to book a flight from Sydney. And since it is responsible to book, not to book a flight, rather it is responsible to track a flight, it won't answer you, correct? So this is also something really, really cool. Now, of course, I have not made it end. So like I've not exit this, but if I was to write just a stop, it would have just stopped. Unfortunately, I just killed it. So I want to track a flight from Sydney, and it would say, okay, provide me the destination, and I would say something like that, um, right? So you can see that this response has been there. If I say stop, it will just okay. Sorry, it is nah, this is my problem. But yeah, you can see that it has given me the correct response. Now I will stop sharing my screen because I want to share it with the sound and I want to show you something. So just give me a minute. Yep. I hope that my sound works. So this is the same bot or same experience, but with this time it is with speech. So this is the cognitive services for speech. I'm using with the speech rather than just a text. And if I come over here and I will, let's see, I want to book a flight from Sydney.
I'm sorry, as a virtual flight assistant, I can only help you with tracking flights. Please visit a booking platform to book flight tickets.
I want to track a flight from Sydney to Melbourne.
Sure. For tracking the flight from Sydney to Melbourne, please provide the flight number.
JF333.
Your flight JF 333 is now departing from Sydney at 8 a.m. and will be arriving soon in Melbourne at 10 a.m.
All right. So did you see this? That by just writing a little bit of code, I was able to build it with the voice, and that too within our same cloud of Azure Sydney. Sorry, Azure uh, uh, within your Azure subscription. So I think peop like this is quite useful, and you can build your own by providing any of your intents over here. Sorry, any of your responses and prompts. Lastly, I'll move to something else, and then we'll take your bunch of questions. Definitely, I'll be sharing my code, everything what you see over here. So don't you worry, John. And thanks, Sam. So coming to the last bit of it. So as we have seen that yes, GPT-4 is useful not just for chat in, chat out, or text in, text out. In fact, it can be used for summarizing text as well, and also translating it. So you can see that using the same model, what I have done is I have provided a snippet, or sorry, not an excerpt from my blog, and I asked GPT 3.5 to just summarize this and also translate it into Urdu, which is my native language. So what I have done, that I've written the same code like text to summarize, prompt. This is my prompt, and within that prompt, this piece is coming over here, right? And then I've just written that you are a virtual assistant responsible for summarization and translating the text. I could have provided blah blah blah, but this is just to give you an example. So if I run this, and you will see this, it is creating the summary and also the summary in Urdu language, right? So this is super cool, and you can see there's the summary is quite good and making sense. So this is another good example of how you can use this. Now the last bit before, and this will be done in like 2 minutes, so that I'll keep the questions part time as well. Generate an image with Dolly. This took me a while to analyze, like how do I build an image over here, but I was succeeded. So good. What we have to do is, so right now we don't have the Azure OpenAI SDK support for Dolly, which means that I had to use the REST API. And for the REST API, I had to use this in this manner, of course. And for this, I had to write a little bit of code just to get like the proper image out of it. However, your prompt is your prompt, so I've written it over here, and rather than this, I would write like Batman working from home in a rainy season, something like that. And if I run this, so you will see that it is going to install Skia Sharp, which is a package to show the images. So you can see that image has been generated, and Batman is working from home these days. So this is, I know that it took me a like I was a little over. I shouldn't have, like I should have finished it quite early, but and I was quite fast. But I'm sorry about that. If anybody wants to know more information about these things, please let me know. What I will do is I will um, just share my slide again, and then we'll go from there. So this is, you see my screen? Yes, I think so. So this is all about Azure OpenAI Service um, learning guide. So you will get these slides. Don't worry, you don't need to take any picture or something. These links are clickable. I will provide you the screenshot. So I'll provide you the slides so that you can just go and look at them. So don't worry about these. And if you have got any questions after this as well, please feel free to connect with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or email me if you want to have a look at my blog. Um, Definitely, please feel free to do that. That is it from my side, but I'm more interested in learning about your questions. So please ask me anything. We'll see. Roger says, thanks. Yes, I will provide you the code access very shortly. The reason I did not push was one of the issues I was having with my code. So yeah, I'll just push it so shortly. Any questions from anyone? Let's see, let's see, let's see. Okay, so many questions. So let me go one by one. Um, is is the model training persistent valid only for a specific session, or is it learned for good? Yes, you need to ground it in a way that it is that whenever you are running it, so it is not learned per session. If your engine is running it and it has provided the information, which when I say engine, you can have it like an app service running on it, and then by by this way your code will always be running, and by this way your per training is already persisted with that specific session, oh sorry, with that specific app service, so that you don't have to run it again and again. How do you store and prepare large amount of conversation in Azure to use it the train model? Good, very good question, John. So for this we need to use some vector databases, otherwise we need to use some embeddings, some this is one of the reasons that cognitive search capability has come into the play to to answer that question in a way that you can ground your documents, your SharePoint, your other data sources with that. I've not seen a SharePoint use case, like I've not seen a SharePoint option yet, because it is also one of my wish list. But um, I have seen that you can have your PDF documents, you can have other documents, you can have many other things, and many other things as in you can have many other sources, cognitive search, blob, upload documents, and then you can utilize that as well. I'm happy to talk to you in in a separate window for that. If you have got any questions, what is the next deep dive? Oh, when is the next deep dive? Next deep dive is hopefully the end of this month or the early next week so early next month. So we'll keep you posted. You will see that over here in the Reactor page. What do you think the most popular use cases are at the moment? Most popular use cases are three. Number one is people are keen on understanding about, let's say they have come for a product company and they want to ask very specific questions about it, where your fact doesn't do the justice for them. So I've seen personally that there are a lot of use cases where customers want to embed these kind of functionality into it, and in order to build that capability, it is going to take a lot of time. So that's why generative AI will come into play. The other piece is your servicing. So let's say you have got a car wash service and you really want to book some agent to book up these services, and any other like salons, car service, any other restaurant reservations. These kind of scenarios are coming up quite well because of the usual nature of conversational AI. It was very difficult to just identify whether it's a date or time, place, or any other entity. So that's the answer for that, Sam. I hope that you got an idea. Lots of information into Jidis. Thank you. Thanks, Dilip. As an independent developer, how do I get over the enterprise company restriction? Is there any enterprise company restriction? I am sorry, I'm not aware of this. If it is the case, you can have your own Azure OpenAI subscription within your own company name, even if you are an independent developer or a contractor. What models are available? Every model which is there in OpenAI are available in Azure OpenAI service right now. Even the new ChatGPT one, which I think just released this week. Um, do you think AI has made it competitive for web developers? No, I think that AI has made them super duper productive. It's just us that how do we want to use it. But I've seen that technologies like GitHub Copilot has improved the productivity rather than decreasing anything. How to anonymize sensitive information when large amount of conversation in meetings are used to train the model? That is a good question. There is a service called Azure Cognitive Service. Within that Azure Cognitive Service, there is a language capability, Language Studio, and in language capability, we have got a service of text analytics, or not just analytics. In fact, there is a service called to identify PII information. You can use that information first to detect that to for the anonymization, John, and then you can replace that information, whichever has got in a response with any garbage value or whatever. You will have a data analysis service as well, even to generate models from your data. You will have a data analysis service as well, even to generate models from your data. I did not understand this question, Alistair. If that's the question, that how do we want to see how the data is progressing or how it is working? If that's the case, I have not come across the monitoring tools yet for this. I don't know. I will. That's a good question, by the way. If that's your question, large amounts of data can be stored in Cosmos and use cognitive search. Absolutely, John. Right on point. This can be done. How will developers and end users be assured that AI chatbot hasn't hallucinated things like flight details? Very good question. It's us who are developing. How it's us developers who are developing this. We need to put a check. We need to put a prompt in these manners that it is not hallucinating and it is not giving you the wrong results. So in order to do that, provide um, evaluation technique to the evaluation technique to the model, which means that ask that model that provide me the reasoning of this particular answer. How did you get this? And that it will give you an answer that yes, I've got it from the service, I have not got it from the service. Sam says there is a SharePoint connector in preview now. This is a good news. Yes, Sam. I didn't check this, but super nice. I am, that how happy I am. I'll definitely check this. I did not get an update from this week, so we'll definitely have a look at it. Price for these API usage. Oh, this is a very big question. I think you just literally go to Azure OpenAI Service Calculator and you will see it. Generating questions on learning material is probably a best case. Mm, Generating questions on learning material is a probably a big case. Yes, it is a big case as well. It is used as well. Are there any fear-free tiers for developers to try out? Unfortunately, not. But the price is like not super high. What are the competitors for Azure OpenAI, Azure AI at the moment? So yes, Google AI I think is a good competitor. Google has got some good set of services, but Azure has been you can see a leader on that, because the vast variety of services which are there is yet to be made available in I think AI, but I would rate it as a good competitor. Great, thank you, Sam says. Um, I am also yes. Please feel free to provide the response to the survey. This will help our Reactor team make things better for you. I'm doing a BTech first year in AI and DS data sciences, I think, from Mumbai. And what should I do? Any advice? Arti, first of all, this is very nice and tempting. I wish I had done the same when I was young. Um, the only advice I would give you is to be consistent with your studies and focus on what is going on in the market. Just don't hold yourself and keep learning. If you want to connect with me and get any help, like you have got any tricky questions, please feel free to ask me. I'm happy to help. and I'm more than happy to help the students. I think that's it.
That looks like it's it. Thank you so much, Arafat, for that session. That was awesome.
No
And
problem.
for everyone who joined us today as well, please make sure you check out the Reactor Sydney meetup page. That's where we'll post all the links, and you'll also get access to this recording right after the session once I end the broadcast. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you all next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.